Alright, what's going on, guys? George here again. Today we're going to be working on the 240SX. We're going to be installing some new front lower control arms that have been extended 30 millimeters by Pessimistic Drift. You can find them on Instagram. They might be able to help you out with your 240 control arms. They also do like modifications for steering knuckles for more angle, that sort of stuff. They do 240s, RX-7s. You can check them out on Instagram. So pretty much what we're going to be doing on top of that, because we're going to have to install those of course, but what comes into play is the fact that I have a GK Tech roll center correction kit, which is supposed to fix roll center which gets messed up when you lower a car, as well as give us a little bit more steering angle, and that moves the mounting location of the tie rod a little bit closer to the steering rack, so you need a slightly shorter tie rod. I also have a set of offset rack spacers, which move the location of where the tie rod mounts to the steering rack a little bit farther away from the steering rack, so you need a much shorter tie rod. I think I have a 350Z tie rod in the car right now, which is about 1.5 inches shorter than stock, but it's a little bit too short because like it doesn't have as much thread engagement as I wanted. I do have a pair of Z32 ones that I never put on because I was like gonna do them and then I didn't because it never broke. So when we're doing these, I'm going to be putting different tie rods in because obviously we need a little bit more length. So I have Maxima inner tie rods here, and I did some measurements. These should be the right size. If anything, they'll be a little bit too long, but we'll easily be able to cut some of the threads off if they do end up being too long. But aside from that, we should be good to throw them into the car. So the reason that I'm doing the control arms is because it gives you more clearance in the fender area around the control arms, as well as the, is it called a caster arm? What's it called? Attention. Right now I don't really need them because I run a 17x7 wheel up front, which with a 215 tire on it, so it does not hit anything except for like the fenders because I run an 1.5 inch wheel spacer on it. So it only has issues like outwards, like these are like new fenders. We're gonna have to cut them after we put the control arms in because I just put the new ones. The old ones are already cut. We're probably gonna make an ingrid and go like that because like the scrub radius is so large from the spacer and the wheel, it hits that. But the reason I'm putting these in now is because I'm hoping to do bigger wheels, maybe a 5-lug conversion in the near future. And having these already in, I'd be able to run like a 9.5 inch wheel up front, maybe an 8.5, and I wouldn't have any clearance issues, hopefully, or I would have less clearance issues. I wouldn't have to do these later on, since it's the winter anyway and we're not doing any driving, so might as well make the car not work for a few more weeks. So we can get started with installing everything. Alright, so we're pulling the control arm off now, as well as the tie rod. I took the bolt that holds the tie rod to the knuckle off, and now we're just going to go ahead and break loose the tie rod from the tie rod end. This little bolt that's held on here. There we go. Wow, look how much angle I have! Dude! Wise fab, man. Alright.
Onion.
Yes. Alright, so this ball joint's pretty messed up in this control arm. Luckily we got new control arms, new ball joint, so we can go ahead and rip it off right now. So I broke one of the tension rod studs that go through the tension rod through the control arm. Broke that on the bottom. As well, I broke a sway bar end length. Oh, there we go. And then besides that, like, it should be ready to come out. I just like hit it with a hammer. I was just like, it's our old control arm. You can see the.
Oh, that is much shorter than the new one.
Yeah, you can see the little bump stop I put onto it because I was hitting the old one with all of my. That's a bit longer. There you go. I was hitting the old one because I had so much angle and it was like limited me, so I made a smaller one so I get a little more angle. And then obviously this ball joint is not in a good place. This one's nice and tight and new.
I couldn't even move that.
That's what you want. It's gonna feel tight. So I guess we can go ahead and throw this side in. We're not gonna be able to do the. Honestly, I might just pull out the tension rod right now because I'm gonna probably just get new tension rods because I kind of wanted adjustable ones, and then we'll already have them out since we have all this space right now. So yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll chuck this new one in. I went ahead and pulled off the boot on the tie rod so I could switch out our actual tie rods. So go and taking a look at our offset rack spacer, and I like grabbed it and it's like, that's kind of loose. Like, I don't know, if any of you watch Adam LZ, you'll know he had some issues with offset rack space, and I was like, he doesn't know how to install them. It's like, I guess I don't know how to install them either. Because it's just literally like loose. And I use like blue Loctite, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna use blue in case I have to ever remove it. So I think I'm gonna go ahead, if I didn't mess up any of the threads on anything, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and put red Loctite into it because
Oh yeah.
this is, have I even done 2 drift events like this?
No.
That's pretty bad. And like, one of them wasn't even drifting because my car was broken.
Imagine if you
the whole time.
dailied this car on the street, that'd be kind of
And then
sketchy.
just fell off.
Yeah.
This is not that far away from falling off. That's pretty cool. I can just loosen it with my thumb. Alright, so we can go ahead and pull this thing apart, and we can tighten that down with some red Loctite as well as new tie rod in.
Okay.
So right now, since I broke a tension rod, I have to order new ones of those. Broke my sway bar end link, I have to order a new one of those. I don't have a Allen key large enough to put my offset rack spacers back in, and I don't have any red Loctite, so we really can't do much. But I kind of want to just put the new control arm in, and like pop the ball joint on, just to see like where it would sit and see how much more negative camber we're gonna have.
Too much.
The bottom of the wheel is gonna be about an inch farther out, with the top probably gonna get sunken in even more. And probably gonna have to roll this new fender too, and we'll have to see. We're gonna have to cut some stuff, but I guess we won't be able to figure it out now because nothing works. So we'll just slide it in. I'm not even gonna bolt it up. I'm just gonna put like a bolt in. I'm not gonna put any nut on the back of it. We should be good. So I'm now going to go ahead and pull everything off the other side of the car, tie rods, tension rod, and then the control arm, of course. And we'll go ahead and pop the new stuff in, and we're, of course, having to wait for some other parts to come in that we broke on this side, and obviously we'll replace them on the other side as well, even if we don't break them. So I was able to get the driver's side control arm out very easily, and I broke this sway bar end link as well, and now that I'm looking at it, you're definitely supposed to put a wrench in the top here, and then you could probably use a socket on the bottom, and it wouldn't break because all the stress is being put on a very small, thin piece of metal here. And if you were holding this with a wrench, it probably wouldn't do that. So if you're ever trying to take off a sway bar end link and you don't want to break it, put a wrench on it and don't just try and torque it off until you see this metal start spinning around in circles where it should be connected. They're lined up approximately at the top, and we've got probably 30 millimeters, inch and a half, inch or so of difference in length, so we should have some very nice wheel clearance in the fender well, as well as some really cool looking fitment that is very unfunctional. So now we're going to go ahead and actually reinstall this arm. Right now I just have it propped up on a jack stand right here, and I just have this bolt in, but we're going to go ahead and torque everything down on this side. We'll get the bolt going in that holds the ball joint to the knuckle, or in our case the roll center correction kit. Get everything torqued down, then we'll be ready for our new sway bar end link and tension rod to come in, and we should be able to just slap those in super easily. I have to make these the same length, so my caster's perfect. This one's reverse threaded, how fancy.
Turn that one all the way tight and just adjust the other side.
No, they gotta be even, so when you grab this thing, it just like, you can adjust it however you please.
What does that mean?
When you go like this and spin it one way, it like extends, you see? Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and throw in our new tension rod. As you can see here, we got some new hardware for it, and it should be good to go. And it is adjusted to the same length as the OEM tension rod, so it should be almost the same amount of caster as before.
Oh, that's good.
Did I run something over?
It's so low with the side skirt.
Does it look lower?
It's tucking in the back.
I forget how low.
This looks broken.
I forget how low this car looks. Are you gonna rub when you turn?
George, move.
No, it rubs less now.
No, it doesn't.
Holy crap.
Turn your wheel.
I can't. There's no tire on. This is like so.
It's so good.
I need more
All right, put these in the
spacer
back
in
and
the
get the
back.
fat ones in the front,
So
please.
much camber. Where's your thingy?
It doesn't. It maxes out at 6.
Whapsh. That's dope.
This is so much lower. Every time it's always up.
Your car's so low.
And the wing?
So I went ahead and pulled all of the tie rods out of the car. The passenger side one was actually loose where the offset rack spacer meets the rack. I used the blue Loctite to connect them last time. I'm going to now be using red Loctite to connect them when I do it again this time. So this is what the old setup looked like. You can see this is a Z32 tie rod, I believe. No, this is a 350Z tie rod. And then what we have here is a Maxima tie rod. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of difference in length between them. And the reason for that is, of course, 30 millimeter extended lower control arm. I'm going to need at least 30 more millimeters of length. And additionally, this one was a little bit too short, as in there was not as much thread engagement as I would have liked to have. So this one should make up for that. And then seems like it's going to be the perfect length, but if anything, we might have to cut a little bit off, but that'd be more possible than adding to the tie rod, which is not as good in my mind. So probably will be perfect with the Maxima tie rod and our red Loctite. So we're going to go ahead and throw the offset rack spacers into the car with the Maxima tie rods and get everything going and start hooking up the stuff and getting the car ready to drive in a straight line. And then right here I've got a new steering rack boot for both sides of the car. So we're going to go ahead and throw this on before we put the outer tie rod on and make it impossible to install. Alright, so we got the tie rods on, and now we're going to go ahead and realign the car. Pretty simple. Since we disconnected all the stuff from the tie rods and the steering rack, we don't really know where the center should be. So pretty much we're just going to recenter the rack really quickly. It's super easy. Take the steering wheel lock to lock, count how many rotations, cut it in half, stop it right there in the middle when we do that many rotations. Maybe just put a little piece of tape there, tie it up to something so we know that's the middle, so when we eyeball line the car, it's as close to the center as possible on the steering rack, so we're not like getting more lock on one side or the other or anything weird like that. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that, and then we will go ahead, bolt the tie rods up, and get a little semi-alignment going on the car so it drives semi-straight until we can actually get it aligned. So as it turns out, our inner tie rods are a tiny bit too long because I pretty much just guessed when I bought them because I really wasn't sure exactly how much length I needed, and they're about maybe a quarter of an inch or a half an inch too long. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off about a half an inch just so I have room to align the car on both sides. And then we'll be good to go. So taking about a half an inch off on each side, which this is definitely better than them being too short, because that would be a lot more difficult to fix. We probably wouldn't want to weld in the middle. So we're going to go ahead and lock like half an inch off of each side, and we should be good. So I got the outer tie rod on, and it's in the roll center correction piece by GK Tech, all connected up here. We're going to go ahead and throw a cotter pin in this tiny hole so this doesn't wiggle itself loose. And I got a very rough alignment right now. It's tough to eyeball when there's not even a wheel on the car. And I'm going to go ahead and wait for our new sway bar end links to come in from Phase 2 Motor Trend before I pop the wheel back on and get the car back on the ground. So I'll go ahead and pop the cotter pin on both sides. So as you guys know, when I was working on replacing my front lower control arms, I was rushing a little bit, so I ended up breaking the OEM sway bar end links. But Phase 2 Motor Trend was cool enough to send me out a new set of fronts and rears, so we're going to go ahead and throw in. Of course, link in the description if you want to check them out. Really great product. So I've got them right here. This is one of the fronts right here. And we'll go ahead and put them on. It should be super easy, just 2 bolts. And we'll have the front sway bars on, and then we'll be able to pop the wheels on and try and use 2 tape measures and get some sort of alignment going so the car can be pointed in a straight line before we get going with anything else. So putting these in should be a super simple process. Taking them out obviously broke them. It wasn't hard to take them out at all, especially if you break them, then you don't have to do anything. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove these nylock nuts, both 17s. And we're going to go ahead and take this, and then the first collar and first like polyurethane little piece here so we can get it around the control arm. Go ahead and pop this onto this end of the sway bar. Push the sway bar end link down until we get to here. Pop the poly joint back onto the bottom of the end link. And we'll go ahead and pop this metal collar and this nylock nut onto the bottom and tighten everything down. And then for attaching it to the sway bar, just pop the nut onto the back of it. We'll just go ahead and throw both sides on just to make sure the sway bar is where it wants to be before we go ahead and tighten everything down. And the other side is the exact same as this side. And then in the interest of not breaking our new sway bar end link, go ahead and take this 12mm wrench, pop it on the collar little piece here so all the torque's not being put on the wrong place. Just look at our socket on the bottom and tighten it up. Then for the other side of the end link, we're going to go ahead and probably have to use a just like a normal wrench because I don't think I can fit my deep socket back there. And then actually to attach it to the sway bar, you need a 14 on the other side of the sway bar. I'm just going to use an adjustable because I don't know where any of my 14 wrenches are. And then a 17 on the back, and you can crank it down and tighten it onto the sway bar. So in order to align the car, it's pretty tough to do when there's no wheel on the hub, just because it's like hard to get the angles right. So I'm going to go ahead and put the wheels on both sides of the front, so then I can kind of just eyeball an alignment just in terms of the toe, so we can get it semi-straight. And then in terms of the caster, not really going to be able to do much with that. It should be adjusted right now pretty much to what the stock caster would be. And then if we actually go to an alignment shot, we might be able to dial the stuff into where we really want it, but for now this should be good. So after I recenter the rack, I have the steering wheel right now at what should be straight. Looks like we've got a little bit of toe in on this side, and then coming over here, looks like we got a little bit of toe in as well. So we'll go ahead and crank on the tire rods a little bit until we can get it pointing semi-straight, and then we might have to go outside and put the car on the ground at some point to try and really dial it in, because it's really, once the weight of the car's on, it's going to change it a little bit, but we'll do the best we can for right now up in the air. So the car's pointing as straight as it is ever going to with just eyeballing it in the air. Like, that seems semi-straight on, maybe it's a little bit of toe out, but really it's not, because it's hard to look at the body line, especially when it's in the air. And then coming over to this side, maybe there's a little bit of toe out. I don't know, it's hard to tell, because the body lines aren't really straight, because it's like a fender. I don't know, when the car's on the ground, we'll be able to get a better eye for it. So we finished everything up for the control arms. You can see my CTS frame rail chassis that someone patched up a while ago. We can ignore that. We got our new tension rods, our phase 2 motor trend, sway bar end links, as well as our extended control arms. So it's right about here where they're extended. It's about 1.5 inches. So yeah, pretty good. And then we can take a look at the fitment when the wheel is pointed straight, which is pretty funny. Yeah, we can begin with noting that I moved the top hats of the coilovers completely to this side, which pretty much is adding as much positive camber as possible, or in theory, decreasing negative camber. Same thing on this side. And then as you can see, we have quite a bit of poke. I'd say the top of the tire is probably about 1.5 inches out from the fender. So yeah, and I mean, this is the only reason this is happening, because I got 1.5 inch wheel spacer up front. But I'm going to keep it there because I think it looks pretty cool to have all this poke, and it's like, why not? I could take it off and it would probably be fine, but like, poke is pretty cool. So we'll keep that like that. So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be doing a lot very soon with the 240SX.